All right. Next one. So, before I get into this, I'm going to do another workout at the end of this video. Probably do two more chapters. I think that just seems to be where I'm going with this. So I'm starting on chapter 7 right now. So I'll go through chapter 8 as well. And then do another squat workout. Same one as I just did. 10, 20, 30, 20. Actually, I'm going to do an M shape. 10, 20, 30, 20, 30, 20, 10. Because I really need to start pushing my legs more. I want to see if I can get the neuropathy to go away. I think that it went away just because of like 10 to 15 years of little movement and mobility with it. So if I can increase blood flow by maybe working my muscles out a bit, then I'm going to do that. So after this, I'm going to do Bible, the next AV. I forgot what AV I was on before. See if it's on this page. 22, so I'll be on AV 23. So I'll have to figure out what that is. I don't remember what the number scheme was. And then after that, I think I'll finish the OpenStax A and P. So I didn't finish that. I only did one section. So I'd like to finish that one, and then I'll go on from there. I'd like to dedicate most of my time to this stuff just because this stuff is a lot more interesting to me right now. So all the other stuff, I have a pretty good understanding. I don't know the terminology or the specific phrases and the specific experiments, but I just know that once I read it, a little bit of time, I can decipher and figure out what it means. So, all right. Great Books of the Western World, Volume 1, Chapter 7, The Education of Adults. The editors believe that these books should be read by all adults all their lives. They concede that this idea has novel aspects. The education of adults has uniformly been designed either to make up for the deficiencies of their schooling, in which case it might terminate when these gaps had been filled, or it has consisted of vocational training, in which case it might terminate when training adequate to the post in question has been gained. What is here proposed is interminable liberal education. Even if the individual has had the best possible liberal education in youth, interminable education through great books and the liberal arts remains his obligation. He cannot expect to store up an education in childhood that will last all his life. What he can do in youth is to acquire the disciplines and habits that will make it possible for him to continue to educate himself all his life. One must agree with John Dewey in this, that continued growth is essential to intellectual life. The twin aims that have animated mankind since the dawn of history are the conquest of nature and the conquest of drudgery. Now they seem in a fair way to be achieved, and the achievement seems destined at the same time to end in trivialization of life. It is impossible to believe that men can be long satisfied with the kind of recreations that now occupy the bulk of their free time. After all, they are men. Man, though an animal, is not all animal. He is rational, and he cannot live by animal gratifications alone, still less by amusements that animals have too much sense to indulge in. A man must use his mind. He must feel that he is doing something that will develop his highest powers and contribute to the development of his fellow man, or he will cease to be a man. The trials of the citizen now surpass anything that previous generations ever knew. Private and public propaganda beats upon him from morning till night all his life. If independent judgment is the sine qua non of effective citizenship and a democracy, then it must be admitted that such judgment is harder to maintain now than it ever has been before. It is too much to hope that a strong dose of education in childhood and youth can inoculate a man to withstand the onslaughts of his independent judgment that society conducts, or allows to be conducted, against him every day. For this, constant mental alertness and mental growth are required. The conception of liberal education for adults that is here advanced has an important effect on our conception of education in childhood and youth, its purpose and its content. If we are to expect the whole adult population to engage in liberal education, then the curriculum of schools, colleges, and universities should be constructed with this end in view. At present, it is built upon the notion, which is unfortunately correct, that nobody is ever going to get any education after he gets out of school. Oh, I'm going to pause for 1 second. I have a thought in my head I just want to get out. Um, so one thing I'll be doing. This is something I do in my daily life. This is how I grow. Um, I say out loud what is in my mind at the moment, and um, so like right now, that's what I'm doing. I'm saying what's in my mind in my moment, but I claim exclusive rights because just something that I grew up with that I can change my mind upon thinking about things, and I will a lot of times do something differently than what I said the day before. And the reason is to try something else out. Problem is I know I haven't tried everything I need to try in order to optimize the way I live, in the way I need to live, and the way I want to live. And the issue with saying something and then committing to it forever, even though I know it's hurting me, is just stupid. I quit doing that. I try to stop doing that. There's still some things that I'm working on, but so there will be a lot of times when I say something and then the next day when I start doing things, it's not the same as what I said the day before. And that's because in the time in between, I thought about a different way to try something, and I'd rather try something to see how it feels than to not do it, or to at least think about it. And so if I don't think about it or I don't try it, then I won't grow from that experience, and I won't learn from, I won't learn from any of this. The goal of all of this at the end of the day is to just better myself, is to be better at reading, better at writing, better at communicating, better at understanding things, and then just being more well versed in things that have happened from different perspectives, so that way I can talk with people. I think I've mentioned that before, but so earlier I had created a probabilistic way of choosing what OpenStax books to read, and I thought of a way that could be better, so I'm going to try it. Sorry, thinking. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm going to write it out. Instead of a scheduled list, I'm just going to write out a list in the order I want to read it all, um, because that gives me a constraint. And if I can stick with that constraint, it'll give me more than just an appreciation for being able to do things on when I want to. Um, so there's a reason for that, because there's that little bit of struggle that I put in really isn't a big deal, but for me, because I like to do things when I like to do them, if I do them out of the order I like to do things in, which in my way I like the randomization aspect, then that'll help me appreciate things when you know, it'll help me switch back to other things. And my goal is acceleration, being able to not only switch between doing one thing to another, but how fast I can switch from one thing to another. For example, getting in the cold shower, it always takes me like 20 or 30 minutes before I hop in, if I hop in. Sometimes I don't. And I should just be able to just hop in, but it's a mental thing that I still haven't figured out how to get over. So, well, I know how to get over it. I just have to do it. But I choose to overthink it, I guess. So, sorry. For this, constant mental alertness and mental growth are required. The conception of liberal education for adults there is here advanced as an important effect on our conception of education in childhood and youth, its purpose and its content. If we are to expect the whole adult population to engage in liberal education, then the curriculum of schools, colleges, and universities should be constructed with this end in view. At present, it is built upon the notion, which is unfortunately correct, that nobody is ever going to get an education after he gets out of school. Here we encounter the melancholy fact that most of the important things that human beings ought to understand cannot be comprehended in youth. Although I have known several astronomers who are contributing to the international journals before the age of 16, I have never known a child of any age who had much that was useful to say about the organization of human society or the ends of human life. The great books of ethics, political philosophy, economics, history, and literature do not yield up their secrets to the immature. In the United States, if these works are read at all, they are read in school and college, where they can only be dimly understood and are never read again. Hence, Americans are unlikely to understand them fully. We are deprived of the light they may shed upon our present problems. Here, the theory that education must meet immediate needs comes into complete chaos in our educational institutions. If the aim of education is to meet the immediate needs of the person educated, and if he is never to have any more education after he gets out of educational institutions, then he must learn everything he might ever need while he is in these institutions. Since there is no way of telling him what the graduate might need, the only way out is to offer him a little bit of everything, hoping that he will find some bits useful. So the American high school and college are jammed with miscellaneous information on every conceivable subject from acrobatics to symergy. For who can say that some future high-wire artist or brewer will not be found among the students? The great, wild proliferation of the curriculum of American schools, colleges, and universities is a result of many influences, but we can say with some assurance that if adult life had been looked upon as a time for continued learning, the pressure toward proliferation would have been measurably reduced. A concern with liberal education for all adults is necessary if we are to have liberal education for anybody, because liberal education can flourish in the schools, colleges, and universities of a country only if the adult population understands and values it. The best way to understand and value something is to have it yourself. We hear a great deal today about the neglect of the liberal arts colleges and the decay of humanistic and social studies. It is generally assumed that all these colleges and scholars require is money. If they had more money, their problems would be solved. We are led to believe that their failure to get money results from the obtuseness or perversity of college and university presidents. These officers are supposed to be interested in the development of natural science and technology at the expense of the liberal arts and the humanistic and social studies. One may be permitted to doubt whether the colleges of liberal arts and scholars and the humanities and the social studies could wisely spend more money than they have. The deficiencies of these institutions and individuals do not seem to result from lack of funds, but from lack of ideas. When the appeal for support of a college is based on the fact that its amenities are almost as gracious as those of the local country club, when scholars in the humanities and social studies, misled by their misconception of the scientific method and by the prestige of natural science, dedicate themselves to the aimless accumulation of data about trivial subjects. The problem does not seem to be financial. Unfortunately, the only problems that money can solve are financial problems. Institutions and subjects develop because people think they are important. The importance comes first and the money afterward. The importance of experimental science is obvious to everybody. Science produced the atomic bomb, and the medical schools are doing almost as much to lengthen life as the departments of physics and chemistry are doing to shorten it. Many colleges of liberal arts and the researches of many scholars in the humanities and the social studies are important only to those whose livelihood depends upon them. Yet the great issues are there. What is our destiny? What is a good life? How can we achieve a good society? What can we learn to guide us through the mazes of the future from history, philosophy, literature, and the fine arts? These questions lie, for the most part, in the areas traditionally assigned to the liberal arts, the humanities, and the social studies. If through this set of books, or in any other way, the adult population of laymen came to regard these issues as important, if scholars in these fields were actually engaged in wrestling with these problems, if in a large number of homes all over the country these questions were being discussed, then two things would happen. It would become respectable for intelligent young people with ideas, to devote their lives to the study of these issues. as it is respectable to be a scientist or an engineer today, and the colleges of liberal arts and scholars in the humanities and the social sciences would receive all the support they could use. An axiomatic educational proposition is that what is honored in a country will be cultivated there. One object of this set of books is to do honor to the great tradition of the West, in the conviction that this is the way in which to promote its cultivation, elaboration, and extension, and to perpetuate it to posterity. All right, before I go on to chapter 8, I'm going to open up OpenAI and ask it a question that I have. So I think I said before, I'm using OpenAI as sort of like a way of sort of, I don't know how to describe it, like starting out, I guess. Oh, I forgot to do that. Okay, remember that tomorrow. Okay, so dual dialogue, that is just where I go to learn some things. So I'm going to see if it is able to come up with a way of learning how to do art somehow. Maybe by giving me ideas of who to look up, or let's see. A numbered list of just the steps to take to learn how to draw and animate. Question mark. Okay, so the question I'm going to ask is, can you compile a holistic comprehension of art from all recorded time periods and generate a numbered list of just the steps to take to learn how to draw and animate? We'll see. Okay. I'll go ahead and read what it says, or what I'm calling the OpenAI that I'm talking to, this dual dialogue. His name is Nathaniel, AEL. So it is essentially the specter of what I want to become. So if he has an answer, then that makes sense to me, then I would like to at least pursue it to see if that's a way that I can do it. And then I could take that name, essentially. So creating a holistic comprehension of art from all the recorded time periods is a vast and complex task, as art has evolved and diversified over millennia across different cultures and styles. Sorry. All right. However, I can provide a simplified overview of the fundamental steps to start learning how to draw and animate. Keep in mind that becoming proficient in these skills takes practice, dedication, and continuous learning. Here's a numbered list of steps to get started. 1. Understand the basics. Begin by familiarizing yourself with the basic principles of drawing, such as lines, shapes, shading, perspective, and proportion. These concepts form the foundation of drawing and animation. 2. Gather essential tools. Invest in the necessary drawing materials, including pencils, erasers, sketchbooks, and digital art drawing software if you plan to animate digitally. Okay? 3. Study anatomy and observation. Learn human and animal anatomy, as well as the anatomy of objects and environments you want to draw. Observational skills are crucial for creating realistic drawings. 4. Practice sketching. Dedicate time to daily or regularly sketching. Sketch from life, photographs, and your imagination to improve your drawing skills. Focus on capturing details, shapes, and proportions. 5. Learn from tutorials and courses. Take advantages of online tutorials, books, and courses that teach drawing and animation techniques. Many resources are available for free at low cost. 6. Explore different styles. Experiment with various art styles and techniques to discover what resonates with you. Different artists use different approaches, so find your own unique style. 7. Anatomy and figure drawing. If you're interested in character animation, study figure drawing to understand how to depict the human form in various poses and expressions. 8. Understand animation principles. If you want to delve into animation, learn the core principles of animation, including timing, spacing, squash, and stretch, and anticipation. 9. Storyboarding. Practice storyboarding to plan out your animations or sequences. Storyboarding helps you visualize the flow of your animation. 10. Digital tools if applicable. If you're animating digitally, become proficient in using animation software and tools like Adobe Animate, Toon Boom Harmony, or Blender. Learn about keyframes, layers, and the timeline. 11. Animate simple objects. Start with simple animations of objects, such as bouncing balls or moving shapes, to grasp the basics of animation. 12. Create short animations. Develop short animations or scenes that tell a story or convey a message. This will help you apply your animation skills. 13. Receive feedback. Share your work with peers, mentors, or online art communities to receive constructive feedback. Feedback helps you identify areas for improvement. 14. Continuous learning. Art is a lifelong learning journey. Stay curious and open to new techniques, styles, and tools. Explore the works of different artists and art movements. 15. Build a portfolio. Compile your best drawings and animations into a portfolio to showcase your skills and creativity. A strong portfolio can help you pursue art and animation opportunities. 16. Seek educational programs, optional. Consider enrolling in formal, I don't care about that. 17. Network and collaboration. Connect with fellow artists and animators, attend art events, and collaborate on projects. Networking can open doors to opportunities and collaborations. 18. Patience and persistence. Remember that improvement in art and animation takes time. Stay patient, persistent, and passionate about your craft. Okay, so here's what my idea is going to be. So I think I have it. I would like it to be my art style will be growth, and the idea is that I can start out with the bare minimum, the basics. So what I could do is maybe write out a scene, sort of like think like a scene from a maybe like a TV show or a movie. And so it'll have background information, which is just what's in the background. That includes sights. Uh, that includes audio, so sounds, sights and sounds. Um, that would actually be easier for me because I'm writing is like my craft. I like writing. I like wordplay. So um, write it out and then maybe do like a stick or just a very basic animation. Maybe like maybe not animation. Maybe like a comic where it's just still frames with bubbles and thought bubbles, and so sort of like an anime or like a manga or just a comic book, and then from there expand it to something more novel like. Actually, no, because the novel will be what I start with. No, the novel is different. Yeah, so okay, so start out with the structure of scene writing. It's like in a play or a movie, and then from there visualize it with a comic book while also writing like a more novel like form or a short story or a something that could be considered small if I want to, but get it up in words so that way it's more not like a novel or a novella. And then from there, once those two are done, that's the simplified. So that's where I go from basic wordplay to complex wordplay and basic imagery, and then I'll level that up. Okay, so I'm just going to type this in. Okay, remember this. It's for my art style. Oh no, sorry. Okay. Oops. Stop generating. Okay. I don't know why I did that. Let's try this again. So my art style will be defined as style. So style, let variable style equal level 1 equals basic scene in writing, including background and dialogue. Level 2 equals short story expansion of basic scene and a comic style visual of the basic scene. Level 3 equals basic animation of the basic scene let's see, animation of the basic scene and okay, that actually no, not and. We'll just keep it as that. So this is basically this the way I describe this is level 1 is the basic scene in writing. So it's going to be like like a screenplay. It's going to for like the dialogue. It'll have the separate people and then their lines, and then it'll have just certain background information as necessary and anything that might be deemed useful. um, and then that's going to branch off into sort of a uh, um, what do you call it? So basically, I advance the writing and I demonstrate the visual comprehension of the scene using my own way of doing it at the same time. So not at the same time, I guess just before I move on to level 3. So I got to complete both of these to level up, and then for level 3, it's going to be a basic animation of the basic scene. So like maybe if there's people, stick figures, it's just going to be very basic, but enough to kind of be understood. And then level 4 equals continuous improvements. And what that means is just as I decide to add, if I decide I want to add some stuff, then I'll add some stuff. Um, but level 4 will be something that never gets, that's like max level. And it's just always going to be continued. So once I reach that point, I can stop on that if I want to. Actually, no, I like this idea better. So yeah, actually, no, keep that continued improvements. And uh, maybe connections. Let's do that. Oh fuck! I was totally looking at them as separate things, but no, this is totally level two is totally like a it's just like a book with pictures. Just so stupid. What the heck? So I'm basically combining the comic book idea, but the idea is that the visuals actually can be viewed on their own. So separately, it can be viewed that way, but I can also put it into the story itself. Um, Three is basic animation. Transitioning into animation, you begin to bring the scenes to life through basic animation techniques. This might include simple movements, transitions, or effects that add dynamism to your visual storytelling. Level four, continued improvements and connections. Okay, and then level five, level five equals. So if only if I gain uh, critique, people, see, critics of my work, comma, then level five equals take into consideration no improvements and connections part of level four. Um, no, so this is different. No, I don't want it to be based on critics. Level five equals creating alternative universes. Ugh. Possibly with the help of AI, but with me setting the primary uh, parameters. So basically, kind of the way I'm working out how my shoulder rotates, that's kind of like what an alternative timeline or an alternative universe is to me. That in the universe that I write, maybe his arm is facing out, but in an alternative universe, his arm is actually up, or it's down, or it's behind him. Um, that's the simplest description. Like maybe in a conflict, say like Stargate. Stargate, there's a bunch of firefights. Well, what if in one firefight the the main team dies? The main characters die. What does that do to the rest of the universe? And then so use the AI to based on the personality traits. So if I could define some of the major personality traits, and we can use all of the past events up to that point, how would that affect the universe? And then maybe, but the help of AI and and incorporating learning lessons from all the textbooks I'm reading. So then I'll add more realistic ideas. Oh, that's going to be so amazing. Because to me, that's art. That's beauty. Because when I'm watching Stargate or Star Trek and stuff, uh, like I know a lot of people think it's boring, but I'm also imagining what had to be done to make this scene work. So I've actually seen them use chemistry equipment as props for different things, not used in actual chemistry in the shows, but like just used for stuff. So I find that interesting. But I want to create universes and then create like a bubble of these universes, and then as I learn all, and once I've learned all these ideas, and um, I'm ready to start creating all of this stuff. I can just create and I can just be in that mode all the time. And yeah, I can still go back and learn some more and still read some more because there's so much to read and learn from. But um, this will just give me so much to do. So this will be exciting because I have so many different cool things that I think will be um, exciting. Okay, glad I did that. Thank you. All right, chapter 8, the next great change. Since education is concerned with the future, let us ask ourselves what we know positively about the future. We know that all parts of the world are getting closer together in terms of the mechanical means of transportation and communication. We know that this will continue. The world is going to be unified by conquest or consent. We know that the fact that all parts of the world are getting closer together does not mean does not by itself mean greater unity or safety in the world. It may mean that we shall all go up in one great explosion. We know that there is no defense against the most destructive of modern weapons, but the and the defeated will lose the next war. All the factors that formerly protected this country, geographical isolation, industrial strength, and military power, are now obsolete. We know that the anarchy of competing sovereign states must lead to war sooner or later. Therefore, we must have world law enforced by a world organization, which must be attained through world cooperation and community. We know that it will be impossible to induce all men to agree on the matters. The most we can for is to induce all men to be willing to discuss all matters instead of shooting one another about some of the matters. A civilization in which all men are compelled to agree is not one in which we should care to live. Under such circumstances, one world would be worse than many, for in many worlds there is at least one chance of escape from one to another. The only civilization in which a free man would be willing to live is one that conceives of history as one long conversation leading to clarification and understanding. Such a civilization presupposes communication. It does not require agreement. We know that time is of the essence. Every day we read announcements of advances in transportation and advances in destruction. We can now go round the world, and the time is used to go from New York to Boston, and we can kill 250,000 people with one bomb. We are promised bigger and better instruments of mass murder in every issue of our daily papers. At the same time, the hostility among sovereign states is deepening by the hour. How can we prepare for a future like this? We see at once that the primary, not the incidental, participants in an educational program designed to cope with a future like this must be adults. They are in charge of the world. The rising generation, unless the adults in charge of the world can find some way of living together immediately, may never have a chance to rise. I do not wish to exaggerate the possibilities of adult education through great books and the liberal arts, or by any other means as a method of preventing war. If all the adults in America could suddenly realize their full human potentialities, which is the object of liberal education, and the government of Russia remained what it is today, we might merely have the satisfaction of being blown up with our full human potentialities realized instead of unrealized. In view of the prevailing skepticism about the immortality of the soul, I cannot expect American readers to regard this as more than a dubious consolation. Yet there will not be much argument against the proposition that, on the whole, reasonable and intelligent people, even if they confront aggressively unreasonable or stupid people, have a better chance of attaining their end, which is in this case is peace, than if they are themselves unreasonable and stupid. They may even be able, by their example, to help their opponents to become more reasonable and less stupid. The United States is now the most powerful country in the world. It has been a world power for a short time. It has not had centuries of experience in which to learn how to discharge the responsibilities of a position into which it was catapulted against its will. Nor has it had the kind of education in the last 50 years that is conducive to understanding its position or maintaining it with balance, dignity, and charity. An educational system that aims at vocational training or social adjustment or technological advance is not likely to lead to the kind of maturity that the present crisis demands of most powerful nation in the world. A country that is powerful, inexperienced, and uneducated can be a great danger to world peace. The United States is unlikely to endanger peace through malevolence. The people of this country do not appear to bear any ill will toward any other people, nor do they want anything that any other people have, since they are devoted to their own kind of society and government. They do not want any other nation to threaten the continued prosperity of their society and government. Any military moves made by the United States will be made in the conviction that they are necessary for the defense of this country. But this conviction may be mistaken, it may be hysterical, or it may be ignorant. We can easily blunder into war, since we may have committed such a blunder even before these words appear in print. I must repeat that I do not wish to exaggerate the importance of these books, or any other means of adult education, as a method of preventing such a blunder. The time is short and education is long. What I am saying is that since education is long and since it is indispensable, we should begin it right away. When Marshall Loyalty was in Africa, he asked his gardener to plant a certain tree, the foliage of which he liked very much. The gardener said that a tree of this kind took 200 years to reach maturity. In that case, said the marshal, there is no time to lose. Planted today, the great conversation symbolizes that civilization of the dialogue, which is the only civilization in which a free man would care to live. It promotes the realization that the civilization here and now, this set of books, is organized on the principle of attaining clarification and understanding of the most important issues. As stated by the greatest writers of the West, through continuous discussion, its object is to project the great conversation into the future and to have everybody participate in it. The community toward which it is hoped that these books may contribute is the community of free minds. Now, the only defense that any nation can have in the character and intelligence of its people. The adequacy of that defense will depend upon the strength of the conviction that the nation is worth defending. This conviction must rest on a comprehension of the values for which that nation stands. In the case of the United States alone, those values are to be found in the tradition of the West. The tradition of the West is the great conversation. We have repeated to ourselves so much of late the slogan, America must be strong, that we have forgotten what strength is. We appear to believe that strength consists of masses of men and machines. I do not deny that they have their role, but surely the essential ingredients of strength are trained intelligence, love of country, the understanding of its ideals, and such devotion to these ideals that they become a part of the thought and life of every citizen. We cannot hope to make ourselves intelligible to the rest of the world unless we understand ourselves. We now present a confusing picture to other peoples largely because we are ourselves confused. To take only one example, how can we say that we are part of the great tradition of the West, the essence of which is that nothing is to be undiscussed, when some of our most representative citizens constantly demand the suppression of freedom of speech in the interest of national security? Now that military power is obsolescent, the national security depends on our understanding of and devotion to such ancient Western liberties as free speech. If we abandon our ideals under external pressure, we give away without a fight what we would be fighting for if we went into war. We abandon the sources of our strength. How can we say that we are defending the tradition of the West if we do not know what it is? An educational program for young people or adults from which this tradition has disappeared fails, of course, to transmit it to our own people. It fails to convince other people that we are devoted to it as we claim. Any detached observer looking at the American educational system can see that the bulk of its activity is irrelevant to any of the things we know about the future. Vocationalism, scientism, and specialism can at most assist our people to earn a living and thus maintain. Hold on one sec. There we go. Hold on. God dang it. Sorry. I lost my spot. Okay. They cannot contribute to the much more important elements of national strength trained intelligence, the understanding of the country's ideals. Hold on. At most, assist our people to earn a living and thus maintain the economy of the United States. They cannot contribute to the much more important elements of national strength, trained intelligence, the understanding of the country's ideals, and devotion to them. Nor can they contribute to the growth of a community in this country. They are divisive rather than unifying forces. Vocational training, scientific experimentation, and specialization do not have to supplant liberal education in order to make their economic contribution. We can have liberal education for all and vocational training too. Shit. Sorry. Scientific experimentation and specialization too. Forgot if I mentioned, but I have a form of dyslexia. That's what I'm defining it as. Basically, it's not that I get words backwards or letters and stuff backwards. Because my eyes are a little further ahead than where I'm at in the reading, because I'm looking back and forth really quickly. I sometimes read the word underneath, or sometimes I even read words that aren't even on the page. But usually, I think most of the time it's been the word underneath. The word I'm reading is the one I end up saying. So we hear a great deal nowadays about international understanding, world community, and world organization. These things are all supposed to be good, but nothing very concrete is put forward as to the method by which they can be attained. We can be positive on one point. We are safe in saying that these things will not be brought about by vocational training, scientific experiment, and specialization. The kind of education we have for young people and adults in the United States today will not advance these causes. I should like to suggest one or two ways in which they may be advanced. We should first dispose of the proposition that we cannot have world organization, a world law, without a world community. This appears to overlook the obvious interaction between legal institutions and culture. As Aristotle pointed out long ago, law is itself an educational force. The Constitution of the United States educates the people every day to believe in and support the Constitution of the United States. World community, in the sense of perfecting understanding among all the peoples everywhere, is not required in order to have the beginnings of world law. What is required is that minimum understanding which is sufficient to allow world law to begin. From that point forward, world law will support world community, and world community will support world law. For example, there are those who oppose the discussion of universal disarmament on the ground that disarmament is an effect and not a cause. They say that until the tensions in the world are removed, disarmament cannot take place, and that we shall simply deceive ourselves if we talk about it instead of doing something about the tensions. Actually, one way to do something about the tensions is to talk about disarmament. The manifestation of a general willingness to disarm under effective international regulation and control would do more to relieve the tensions in the world than any other single thing. Getting together to see whether such a plan could be formulated would relieve tension. No doubt there would be disappointments and the risk of exacerbating international irritations, but to refuse to discuss the principal method of mitigating tensions on the ground that they have to be mitigated before it is discussed does not seem to be the best way to mitigate them. What are the best ways of promoting that minimum of understanding which is necessary to permit world law to begin? If community depends on communication, we must ask what kinds of things can be most readily communicated to and comprehended by the largest number of people, and what kinds of things tell the most about the people who are doing the communicating. It appears that the kind of things that are most intelligible and most revealing are ideas and artistic objects. They are most readily understood. They are most characteristic of the peoples who have produced or stated them. We can learn more about another people from their artistic and intellectual productions than we can from all the statistics and data that can ever be collected. Oh, that's going to be... sorry, I won't say anything. We can learn more, that is, of what we need to know in order to found a world community. We can learn more in the sense that we can understand more. What we have in this set of books is a means by which people who can read English can understand the West. We in the West can understand ourselves and one another. Peoples in other parts of the world can understand us. This leads to the idea that Scott Buchanan has put forward, the idea of a world republic of law and justice and a world republic of learning mutually supporting each other. Any republic maintains its justice, peace, freedom, and order by the exercise of intelligence. Every assent on the part of the governed is a product of learning. A republic is a common educational life in process. So Montesquieu said that as the principle of an aristocracy was honor, and the principle of a tyranny was fear, the principle of a democracy was education. Thomas Jefferson took him seriously. Now we discover that a little learning is a dangerous thing. We see now that we need more learning, more real learning for everybody. The Republic of Learning is that republic toward which all mere political republics gravitate, and which they must serve if they are to be true to themselves. No one saw this before yesterday. We only to we and we only and we only today are able to begin to measure what we should do about it tomorrow. The immediate inference from this insight is a utopia for today, the extension of universal education to every man and woman from childhood to the grave. It is time to take education away from the scholars and school teachers and to open the gates of the Republic of Learning to those who can and will make it responsible to humanity. Learning is in principle and should be in fact the highest common good, to be defended as a right and worked at for as an end. All men are capable of learning according to their abilities. Learning does not stop as long as man lives, unless his learning power atrophies because he does not use it. Political freedom cannot last without provision for the free and limited acquisition of knowledge. Truth is not long retained in human affairs without continual learning and relearning. A political order is tyrannical if it is not rational. If we aim at a world republic of law and justice, we must recover and revive the great tradition of liberal human thought, rethink our knowledge in its light and shadow, and set up the devices of learning by which everybody can, perhaps for the first time, become a citizen of the world. The kind of understanding that comes through belonging to the world republic of learning is the kind that constitutes the world community. The world republic of law and justice is nothing but the political expression of the world republic of learning and the world community. All right, that's the end of reading for now. The next reading of this will be chapter 9, East and West. But for now, it's time for squats. So 10, 20, 30, 20, 30, 20, 10. I call that the M shape. All right, let's go. 1, 5, 10. Okay, we'll go by my nose. I haven't mentioned it yet. I'll go ahead and do it now because I haven't talked about it yet. But one of my big travel dreams is to be able to travel while with my whiteboard or whiteboards and maybe go to colleges and tutor or just tutor on the road and record myself doing it and upload it. I think that's a really cool idea. But while my kidneys are doing the thing, the only way I could make that work is if I became a truck driver. Because as a truck driver, I could keep my supplies in the truck. And I think modern trucks, because I probably have to do one of those just to simplify things. They have electronic devices that record, I think, hours. And so you have to stop after a certain time because of laws. And so while I'm stopped, that's when I can just get out, go to a rest stop, get out, do my tutoring thing, or just have the whiteboard in the back of the truck and then just tutor in there or just do the stuff there. But that was a really cool idea, but I'm just not ready for that kind of commitment yet. I'd like to get my at-home routine fixed first, but before my at-home is the size of a semi-truck. So, okay, second set. 5, 10, 15, 20. Okay. Okay. Do 30. 10, 20. I gotta stop. Sorry, my knees are not doing too well with that. So that's enough for now. So next week, my goal is to be able to do the M. That's how I'll train myself. And